everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this video we're gonna paint the second part of this video. So we're gonna paint the Kitsune. If you haven't seen the first part, I will link it up here. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you want to watch more tutorials, subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions, comment them down below. It really helps the algorithm and that's my channel.
We start out by painting the silhouette. I do this with gesso, like the same stuff you use to prepare your canvas. You can also use white paint. I actually go over the layer of gesso with white paint. Then we add some yellow ochre to the still wet paint, wet white paint. So morning light is warm, so you want to add a warm tone. And start with a part of the body that's facing you, as the other parts are facing the sunlight and will just be overexposed and very light. At this point you still have to figure out a little bit like what color saturation works best, and it's easier to make something darker than it is to make something lighter. So yeah, always start with a point that you might want to make darker. So I started with a paws, and that's also because foxes sometimes have like that their paws are darker, and I like that. And for the really shadowy parts, you can mix a little bit of oxide black into the mix. As you can see, it's still a very light color. There's like little to no black in it actually. I carve out some body shapes with this color, at least at places where there would be a shadow. I sketched the forms on paper beforehand. This is just a preference. Some people like to do stuff like this with the loose hands. Others, like me, want to practice with an easier medium first. So just look what suits you. I feel like my working order is all over the place with this painting. But let's add a little more color to the back. It will not be super exposed to lights because the Kitsune is walking downstairs and because of the tails that I will paint later. So add a little bit of yellow ochre with titanium white. And just paint the back, blend it in with the flanks. So you have a nice gradation, transition. For the face, we can mix a little bit of warm grey into the ochre and white mix. I didn't want to use too dark colors as that can look hard or drown out any details, and faces are detailed and you also don't want them to look very hard. For the ears we use a dark grey color. I already mentioned that foxes sometimes have like darker paws, and the same goes for ears and tail tips, or they're not necessarily darker, but there's sometimes another color. And I like to integrate that phenomenon into this painting, and as a Kitsune is white, you can't really go any lighter than white, so they become darker. For the right top side of the face, we use a mix of white and yellow ochre again. As we go to the left, we gradually change this into a mix of titanium white and warm grey, and we use the same mix for the area around the eyes and the snout. Just make sure that you blend it all really well so you don't end up with a panda kitsune, which would also be a very cool idea. For the area closest to the mouth, use a darker mix of color, and yeah, again make sure that it gradually goes into the other colors. And you can use an even darker version of this mix for some extra shadows under the chin or under the head. My English is failing. How's that called? Like the part where, I don't know, the chest? Help. Yeah, to brighten the edges of the head, we can use white again. Again, if something's too light, you can easily make it darker, while making something lighter is way more difficult. And as the sun shines like past it, there will, like, the edges will brighten up. Why am I doing this at night? For some shadow behind the head, use a mix of black, ochre and white again, and I keep saying this, blend this well into the lighter color that's already on the back. You can use the same mix or a similar mix to create more shadows if you need them. Make sure they're not like too black, too dark, because that can make your painting pretty two-dimensional. You can also use a brown color instead of black. Just make sure it's like a very, very dark brown. Also put a bit of ochre, of a mix of ochre and black on the edge of the ears. Again, this makes them a little bit less two-dimensional, and light would shine next to the ears, so there would be a little bit of warm light. I start sketching out the tails with a mix of yellow ochre and burnt umber, mostly burnt umber. You can arrange the tails the way you want. Just make sure the arrangement kind of makes sense. I chose to put the middle tail behind the ones beside it, and eventually the ones to the far left and far right as the closest tails. So for the shadows, we used the yellow ochre and burnt umber mix. And of course, to the base of the tail there's more shadow, because the other tails are covering it. And to the tip it becomes lighter. So to the tip of the tail, let this dark color gradually go to more yellow ochre, and eventually to a mixture of yellow ochre and a lot of white. And like this we can paint all the tails. I'm not going to show you all, as that would probably get very boring. I mean, there are 9 tails. Lighten up the edges again and add some light yellow spots as a reflection of the sunlight. thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week.